Welcome to the Attractions Group podcast. This is episode 61. I'm Ryan Suhr along with Don Helbig. Don, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, Ryan. How about you?
I'm doing well too. Had a busy week and it's the weather's finally turning nice. It was hot in Florida, but you know what? I'm not even making it a secret this time because we got a special guest, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can see who it is. Don, tell us about our special guest.
Well, we'd like to welcome back to the Attraction Group podcast, Andrew Stilwell. He's from Coaster 101. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm doing great. And, last time I was on the show, and I think I've achieved friend of the pod status now by appearing for the second time and sending you guys hats, and thank you for the plug. We should probably sell those, but we didn't. Ryan looks like he's going to put on his Coaster 101 hat, but I was under the impression there was a strict uniform policy for this podcast, which is why I've got my nice, I don't have the button-down Hawaiian shirt like Don is wearing, but I've got my, floral print Adidas golf shirt. Ryan, I can kind of see you. Bright red is not giving tropical vibes right now. What's the deal?
Well, the problem was that the hat, my stylish coaster101.com hat, did not match the Hawaiian shirts, the Hawaiian shirts that I had. But thank you for sending us the hat. We actually got these hats months ago, and I think we mentioned them on this show, but I don't think I had the opportunity to thank you for sending it to me.
I was going to wear mine, but I didn't want it to mess up my hair.
Hey,
that's true.
It doesn't really match with the Italian shirts or the Hawaiian shirts. So I appreciate you wearing it. You don't have to wear it over your headphones the whole show if you don't want to.
Oh, but I want to. You've guilted me into it for not wearing a Hawaiian shirt today.
Okay. Well, that's a you choice at this point.
It is. You should sleep fine tonight knowing this. Hey, so for those of you who are watching on YouTube, welcome. If you prefer the audio version, we're available on all your favorite podcast apps, Apple, Google, Spotify, etc. If you're listening, well, welcome as well. You can find us on YouTube at search for the Attractions Group podcast. We actually do a live feed. It's not just like a still image with us talking over it. And if you want to follow us on Twitter/X, we're at attractions_GRP. All right. So, for the listeners that aren't familiar with Coaster 101, that didn't listen to the last episode for some reason, can you give us the rundown of what you guys do?
Yeah, I like to tell people we cover the EWS of the amusement park roller coasters and the whole industry. So that's reviews, news, interviews. There are probably other words that end in EWS that I'm not thinking of right now. But yeah, we're your neighborhood friendly amusement park blog. There's 8 of us on the team, and we cover the news, like I said, the news, and we interview people. We've got a podcast as well. Haven't ventured into the world of video quite yet because I don't know if the internet is ready for that level of content. But, we've got like I said, podcast, website. We're on all the social medias, but yeah, we've been around 18 years at this point, believe it or not. And I've been with Coaster 101 for 10 years next month.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's a pretty good run there. Andrew, we've got the Halloween season now underway, and I believe you're going to Scarowinds this weekend. You've been there before in previous years. What do you like about the event?
I think Scarowinds, first of all, it's really, to me, it's done very well. And the mazes some of the mazes stay the same. There's always, a new scare zone or some new entertainment. I know this year they've got a daytime parade and a nighttime parade, and I think it's the first Cedar Fair park that has that kind of what I like to call Boo to You parentheses Carowinds version. But I think anytime you can kind of put a special event, like a special event bow around something at a park like Carowinds, I know the live entertainment team, they work really, really hard on Scarowinds all year round. So to see their hard work pay off and the shows and the mazes and things like that, I think that's really what sells me. I remember walking through, let's see, this would have been 2015, 2016, something around that time. So a while ago. But I remember walking through a maze, lights on the first time. And I was kind of doing a little behind the scenes thing. I'm walking through a maze, lights on, no effects, no scare actors in the maze, and I was still like jumping and kind of jittery, turning around every corner. I don't necessarily do that now, going through the mazes at Scarowinds, because they've got, I think they've got 5 mazes this year, and they're all repeat offenders. So you kind of, I don't want to say offenders, but they're repeat appearances. So you kind of know, if you go through these mazes enough, somebody's going to pop out at this point. Somebody will drop the window and pop out at you or make a loud noise, or there is a chainsaw scare actor here or a loud car noise here. But I like to go just for the overall experience, and I'm not a huge fan of getting scared. I will, I asked my fiance if she wanted to go with me this weekend. She goes, "I don't like getting scared. You go ahead." So I'm just gonna go Sunday, have a really good time, and but yeah, I think it's one of those things that every year except for 2 in the last 8 or so, I've made it to Scarowinds at least once. So it's turned into a little bit of a tradition.
All right. So Scarowinds is kind of a different model from some of the other parks in which it is a separately ticketed event. What are your thoughts on that?
I, having not experienced it, I mean, obviously I know Halloween Horror Nights is its own thing down in Orlando, and I know there are other folks in the kind of the theme park community who their entire identity, at least in the month of September and October, is Halloween Horror Nights or haunts, or they go, multiple times a season. I'm not like that. I've only been, Scarowinds is kind of my baseline for what I know. I've been to Hallow Scream at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, which I don't believe is a separate ticketed event.
It's not.
Okay. So the thing that I like or don't like, and that I kind of had to game the system in past years, is they would clear the park out, which if the park closed, if Scarowinds started at 7, they would close the park at 5. They would clear it out. Traffic in that area for Scarowinds, especially on Friday and Saturday nights, is absurd. So my tip for people was always, if you have a season pass, was to get there be in the park by 4:30. You could go sit out your car, because they clear the park. They don't clear the parking lot. So everyone leaves. You can move your car to the front gate and be one of the first in line, not have to fight the traffic. They've alleviated that issue this year with the First in Fright program, which, side note, I love that name as a North Carolinian. Sorry to the Ohio guys in the room. But I'm okay with it being a separate ticketed event, but it also, to me, as a pass holder, it might as well just be a same ticketed event that you have to leave the park and come back for. But to me, it's all one ticket, so it's all included. I think there's obviously there's value to both. You have a double revenue stream if it's a separate ticketed event versus a show up at 10 a.m. and then you can stay in the park through midnight like at Busch Gardens. But to me, I think as a season pass holder, it doesn't really have that effect where it's like it's a huge negative for me. I don't mind, getting there to the park in the afternoon, riding a roller coaster, and then going and sitting in my car, charging my phone, doing all that stuff, just listening to, whatever happened to be on the radio, college football or what have you. And then I would just go jump back in line at 6:00, be among the first in the park, and attack it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah, Andrew, you've done different Halloween events around, the region and, maybe even the country. You definitely read about a lot of different Halloween events for what you're doing with Coaster 101. Some of the parks, they do just the family-friendly event. That's all they do. Some have the blood, terror, and gore. That's all they do. Some try to do a fun daytime thing, and then something, more scary at night. What do you think for you? I mean, what kind of a Halloween event is most enjoyable to you?
Well, as a childless 30-something, I will say something like a Tricks and Treats Fall Fest, where you're going through the foam maze, or the hay maze at the Cedar Fair parks. It doesn't really appeal to me. Again, I don't have a kid. I'm not the type to dress up in a costume. I I would say the blood and guts haunt mazes, all that good stuff would be kind of what I would appeal to, with the caveat being that the crowds, and I know this has changed in recent years with chaperone passes and things like that. The crowds, they skew younger, and for some reason there's always a group of teenagers, and I don't want to sound too much like a boomer or anything like that, but there's always a group of teenagers who think they're too cool, and it sometimes ruins a little bit of the experience, but it is what it is. But yeah, if I have to pick between family friendly daytime paint a pumpkin trick or treating, or walking through mazes and scare zones and seeing scare actors and the live shows that are kind of more adult oriented, as the adult without kids, I tend to lean more towards the adult centric or PG-13 centric entertainment.
Andrew, so getting off the whole Halloween thing that we've been talking about, for the past few minutes, but there's other news out there in the theme park industry, and one thing that was both surprising and predicted was that Dollywood recently announced that Lightning Rod would be closing at the end of their Harvest Festival and would be reopening next year with a high-speed chain lift as opposed to a launch. Very curious as to what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, so I was like living under a rock despite being 4 hours from Dollywood. Before earlier this year, I had never ridden Lightning Rod. I mean, I'd only been to Dollywood one other time, which again, living in North Carolina, being as close as I am, it's kind of sacrilege at this point. But I got to ride Lightning Rod one time because it went down in the afternoon as I was next in line to board. So I will say the launch is a very enjoyable aspect of that ride, and you kind of crest that hill. Everyone swears that it used to be faster, or it used to just launch you straight over and you weren't slowed at the top. Everyone has their like Lightning Rod 1.0, 2.0, 3.0, whatever number we're on right now experience, like how it was RMC'd as an RMC, all these things. So if it means that the attraction is more reliable and more guests can ride it on a given day, and it's got a high-speed chain lift, I can't think. I mean, the launch is cool. It's cool, but at the end of the day, the better parts of that ride are the quad down and kind of going through the mountains with those overbank turns and all the RMC glory that they've been known to put into rides. And I can't think of any attraction where people are like, oh, my favorite part was the lift hill. Like, right. I don't know. Yes, the launch was a novelty. It was great. It's proven itself that it's not as reliable as the park and guests would like. I'm assuming that's what they've done. And they hear guest feedback of, why is Lightning Rod closed? Why is Lightning Rod closed 6 years after it opened? I think it's 6 years, right? Somewhere around there. Why is it still having periods of downtime consistently 6 years after it opened? What can we do to fix that? So bravo to RMC and Hershend and Dollywood for recognizing the problem and coming up with a way to remedy it and going forward. And obviously they did it so they gave you some warning. So if you wanted to try to get to the park this fall, you could hope it's open. I don't know. I went once this summer and I got my one ride kind of mid-morning, and thankfully I kind of have this love-hate relationship, or have in the past, with RMC as a person of a little, rounder stature. And but I fit, and that was really cool to me. And I was nervous, and I was with two of my buddies, and we were I was very nervous, and they kind of laughed at me in line. They're like, "What are you worried about?" And they said, "Trust me, I've been here before where I've been walked off the platform, and this is one that I didn't want to be." So I'll be excited to get back to Dollywood, hopefully before 7 years elapses. Yeah, that's the word. Between visits, and I'll be excited to ride it with this high-speed chain lift. I mean, again, it's a chain lift. The launch was cool, But if more people can ride this, and once you get to the top of the hill, the ride is the exact same. It's I think people are looking for something to complain about if they're really, really negative on the launch going away, because the rest of the ride is so much better than the original launch.
Yeah, I think that you kind of nailed it. And what I was telling people is the ride isn't great because of the launch. It's great because of the quad down. So that's not being affected. So
Yeah.
who cares? You know?
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you too, Andrew, on that. About I've been fortunate that it has been open more often than not, the times I've gone to Dollywood. So I don't have, tons of rides on it. I've got 11 on it. But the launch, the lift hill, that wasn't even any part of what I remember about the ride, or what I was excited about the ride. So I don't think it's going to ruin it in any way. And, excited to see, what it's going to be like next year when it reopens. It'll be more reliable. And I really like the fact, that Dollywood, came out. They were very transparent about what they were going to do, why they were going to do it. They gave everyone that opportunity to plan a visit if you still wanted to ride it before they had to shut it down. To me, I think it's just going to be a win all the way around for the park.
Yeah, and that transparency that you mentioned, I feel like parks, and recently, and maybe I'm just hyper focused on certain parks and certain aspects and cracks and rides that happen at my home park, but I think the transparency of parks, specifically this season, has been really good, and that's the service to the coaster enthusiasts, but to the Joe Q public GP, as it were, who. They don't really care if the roller coaster's open. They don't really understand why it's closed. But those of us who follow everything, down to the punctuation, we know why, and we know why it's being improved. And I think the level of transparency from the park was, I was really impressed.
Yeah, it's definitely come a long way, about just being open about it. I think you almost have to. Like you said, you're going to know what the issues are in today's world. Everyone's got a phone. Everyone, knows exactly how these rides operate. They can pinpoint the issues, and I just think it's great that we're seeing a lot more transparency there. Let's talk about another coaster that had its issues over the years. Top Thrill 2, going to debut next year. What are your thoughts on that? And let's start with the teaser campaign.
So the teaser campaign, I think, was really well done. I think I think we're going to learn more about this CP racing, and Cedar Fair as a chain in recent years, they've put a lot more effort into creating backstories, not just for their individual rides, something like Mystic Timbers, Copperhead Strike, even Hang Time at Knott's a little bit kind of has a story associated with it, or at least a theme. But their lands as well, stuff like Aeronautica Landing and Jungle Expedition at King's Dominion. They've done really, really good job at this world building. And I think this, as we learn more about CP racing, and I think Tony tried to light the internet on fire by giving out magnets or the lapel pins or whatever it happened to be at Coaster Mania. Coaster Mania, that's their event, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he knew what he was doing, and it was like, here's what this is, and this will be, bring this back in the spring. And it's like, okay, well, let's get the people talking. There's been a 420-foot tower that's been sitting in that park for the better part of 18 months with not a lot going on. And coaster enthusiasts being coaster enthusiasts, we all figured it out pretty quickly. And, there were the No Limits renderings on YouTube, and here's what's going to happen. And, then there were the people who were like, well, this is what's going to happen. And we were absolutely right. And they couldn't have been more wrong, which is hilarious to me. But they left people guessing, which was good. And I think, again, the ride, as you guys mentioned, it's had its issues in the past. I never got to ride the original one. Again, being a rider of size, and Cedar Point having, in my opinion, some shorter belts, and Intamin having some shorter belts on its restraints. Again, this love-hate relationship with some of these manufacturers, I'm getting better. I'm fitting in more rides now, which is good. But my couple visits to Cedar Point, I did not fit, which was a bummer. But that doesn't mean I'm not excited. I think that's the there's a lot of good going into this. I'm really excited to see what Zamperla does to it. Obviously, you guys have had Adam Sandy on your podcast. He's been on our show a couple of times. Adam's a good dude, and he's he is a sales guy. I mean, that's his social media handle, is a sales guy. And a part of a sales guy is being able to sell your product, not just to who's buying it, but to the fans of that product as well. I think Zamperla and Adam and the park are doing a fantastic job of kind of marketing this as it is not the name, the name Top Thrill 2 to me has a little bit to be desired. I don't sit in the rooms and in marketing meetings and say, hey, why do we call it this? Everyone was like, it's going to be called Polaris or whatever, just like Fury was going to be called Centurion. But it wasn't. So I think outside of the name, I'm really excited for everything coming out of that ride. And I know Nick from our team was at the park last weekend. And if I can throw a plug for Coaster 101 on this, he's got a really good construction update video. And the size of that back reverse spike is going to be massive because we don't even have track going up yet, and it's already massive. So
yeah, I've seen photo and videos, and you're right. Massive's the right word to describe that.
Yeah, for sure.
So we actually have not had Adam Sandy on the show. But Don and I have both been up close and personal with the trains that they're going to be using on the Top Thrill 2 project when we were at IAAPA. And the trains, I believe they will be more accommodating. They're lighter, they're less welds, all the modern stuff that people, especially like Skyline attractions, stuff like that, are going for. They've got going on. So I think it's really exciting. I think it's really going to be great. So, kind of on the same subject, when we're talking about Top Thrill Dragster versus Top Thrill 2 and so on, a lot of times there's evolution involved in these rides. I need your take on what's a credit and what's not. So will Top Thrill 2 be a new credit, or is that just your same credit from Top Thrill Dragster?
Okay, we're going to light the internet on fire tonight. That's what we're going to do. So to me, what is a credit? To me, those two, Top Thrill Dragster and Top Thrill 2, are unique credits. They're unique ride experiences. It's you originally, like Top Thrill, you shot straight up. You went up that spike, or not spike, the top hat. You went over the top hat. You came down. You hit the brakes. That's a ride experience. And then Top Thrill 2, obviously, you're going to launch up the spike. You're going to have the swing launch to the vertical backward spike. I think it should be considered a new credit just for the sole purpose that you're going to be going backwards at 100 miles per hour. And short of a rollback on, Dragster or King Ka, that's not something that happens very often. And I think, maybe the Superman coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain and whatever Tower of Terror was, those are the only really times where you go backwards at 100 miles an hour. So to me, it is a new, you've got a new manufacturer behind it. You've got new trains. The only thing that you're kind of really reusing is that original top hat, and the brake run is very similar, but I think it's a new one. To me, that is a new one. Yes.
All right. Now let's go a little bit deeper here.
Oh no.
Just credits in general. So let's say, while we're on the subject of Cedar Point, let's talk about, Gemini.
Yeah.
Is that going to be one credit, or is that two credits?
I think, and Don, I think I know where you're going with this one, because you and I might disagree on this. I think Gemini is two credits, because I think the ride experience on the red side and the ride experience on the blue side are different. You have different turns that you're taking, albeit at the same time. You've got those high five elements, but the layouts they're different. And you could remove one of the red side or the blue side, and Gemini would still be one coaster. If you were to get rid of one side entirely, there would still be another full circuit roller coaster there. So Gemini I have as two.
Okay. Now, I respect everybody's opinion on that. What they count as a credit, what they don't count as a credit. I used to always tell people when they would, argue with me about the Racer at Kings
Yep.
Island or Racer 75 at Kings Dominion. And I would always say the name of the ride is Racer, not Racers.
This is true.
Or they would. So I would say one credit. And they talk about the Kennywood Racer, and someone would say it's one, it's two, but it's that one is a singular track. So everybody's got their own opinion about it. I think at the end of the day, I think it's whatever you want to do. I mean, if you want to, there's no right, there's no wrong. If you want to count as a credit, great. If you don't want to count it as a credit and you want to dismiss it, great. I don't think I don't think it makes anyone's better than the next person because I got this many credits, you only got this many credits. You either love rides or you don't. That's the way I look at it.
Well, that's the right way to look at it. But there are others in this community, as we both know, that they how family friendly do I need to be here? They like waving things around, and when it comes to the number of roller coasters they've ridden, and there's always going to be a debate. I mean, there are rides like Journey to Atlantis at SeaWorld Orlando, SeaWorld San Diego. I think they've got one in Texas too. Is that a coaster? Maybe. I count it. There are the dark rides like Haunted House at Camden Park, Don, which I knew you visited recently, and Devil's Den at Conneaut Lake Park, or whatever is left of Conneaut Lake Park these days. Something like that, I also count as a credit because it's, to me, is like a mini wild mouse where somebody just happens to catch you at the end. So you go up the hill, you take the gravity powered drop of 8 feet or whatever it is, and you kind of go through a windy wild mouse section. So I think those are interesting topics. I think another one to me that is pretty interesting is the Incredible Hulk coaster down at Islands of Adventure. Obviously, there was the 1999 to 2015 version, and then they tore it out, rebuilt it piece by piece, same layout, same footers, newer trains with onboard audio, but the ride experience is the exact same. So I'm going to turn the script here. Have you guys both ridden both iterations of the Hulk, and how do you count it?
Yeah, I've ridden both. What about you, Don?
I've ridden both, and I to me, it's the Hulk.
That's what I'm saying. It's the exact same ride experience.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned the onboard audio, and that does kind of change the experience a little bit, but I don't think their intention was for it to be a new ride. I think it was, I mean, because at that point, I mean, a lot of rides have sections of track replaced. Every time you replace sections of track, is that a new credit? And this isn't even all the track. You can make an argument if they tore down the ride and rebuilt it, but they left the lift hill and the final brake run and things like that.
Yep. So it's funny, and working on Coaster 101 social accounts, I like to have a little bit of fun with enthusiasts. Don, I can probably speak to, and Ryan too. When the Beast added 3 feet of track.
2 feet.
2 feet of track to break its own record. There were enthusiasts in our Twitter mentions, or X. It was Twitter then, so I'm going to call it Twitter, who are like, "Oh, it's totally a new credit. It's a new ride." And it's like, what are you trying to prove? I count these things because to me, it's a checklist of places I've been. It's not. I don't do it like, I know my credit count of 305 it's not anywhere near. There's the guy on RCDB, his name is George something or other. They'll send him photos from time to time that pop up on RCDB's Facebook. He's got a credit count of like 8,700 different roller coasters he's ridden. And, he's going to places like Kazakhstan and finding the one roller coaster in Kazakhstan to ride. And it's like, I enjoy this as a hobby. And like, I don't take any stock in credit counts. I think it is something we do because we enjoy it. And I count to just kind of track where I've been. It's not like 300 was a really cool milestone for me to hit, because when I started at Coaster 101 10 years ago, I'd ridden something like 60, 65 roller coasters because I went back and did the mental check-in. So I was somewhere in that number, and then I just started counting from then. But, that's like 240 roller coasters that I've ridden in the past 10 years. And that encompasses a global pandemic where I wasn't riding anything new for, a year and a half. So to me, roller coasters kind of give me and give people that chance to go places they wouldn't normally go. And I can tell you, I've done some ridiculous things to ride a roller coaster credit. I drove, 45 minutes through the fields of eastern North Carolina to go ride Dinosaur Canyon at Deadwood, which is a steakhouse miniature golf, and they call themselves an amusement park, but it's really like a roller coaster, a little carousel, and then like one or two like other very small kiddie, look like they were made in somebody's backyard flat rides. But there's a roller coaster there, so I've ridden it. Or, I was doing things like I was on a tour this summer for work, and I ended up at Sluggers and Putters outside of Columbus, Ohio, to ride this 1950 Herschel, like, I think it was called Little Dipper, maybe. Could be.
Andrew, that was my first ever roller coaster when it was at LaSwordsville Lake, so be careful with what you say.
I've ridden better roller coasters. But I was done with work early one night. I had the rental car that we had, and I was like, okay, well, this is 20 minutes away. I'm here. I might as well do it. Or if I was in Las Vegas on the same tour, I drove to the Las Vegas Mini Grand Prix and rode the Piff the Magic Dragon coaster. And I don't think I've ever been more ashamed because it's half a ticket to ride, but they don't sell half tickets. You have to buy full tickets. So it was, $11, half a ticket got you a ride, which I think was 2 or 3 laps. I was the only person there. And I went up to the girl and I was like, "Can I ride the roller coaster, please?" And she goes, "Sure." And I said, "Here's the ticket. You don't have to give me the other half. You can just keep it." She was really confused. So I've done some questionable and kind of embarrassing and shameful things to kind of ride roller coasters and add to that credit count. And there are, again, the counting method it's whatever you make it out to be. But to me, it's part of the chase. And when you don't get to 300 without riding some duds here and there. Because I don't think there's 300 top quality roller coasters in the United States, at least immediately come to mind.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying there. And, for me, it was always about the fun first. And then, because you enjoy it, the numbers kind of were there for that. So I wasn't necessarily going on the chase to go on the chase. It was because I was enjoying what I was doing. The one thing, that I always, you see, somebody might say, well, I know more about it than you do because I've got 800 credits to your 174. And that part I don't, really, enjoy seeing those kind of battles taking place out there, whether it's social media or fan sites or even in a queue line, where somebody's talking about something and they're trying, like they're superior because they had this many credits. I don't think you become more knowledgeable because you rode more rides because, a lot of them, it's still the same kind of thing. Or if you can't get a credit on something because it's a kid coaster, you can look at it, you know what it does. I mean, you don't have to ride it to know.
Right.
So those are the kind of things for me is just that when it's over the top competitive like that.
Yeah, and even if it is a kid coaster, let's the Speedy Gonzales or whatever it's called at Family Kingdom in Myrtle Beach, kids only. But you know what? You can go ride a Wacky Worm literally anywhere else. It's the same ride. It's all fun. That's what at its core. That's what roller coasters and theme parks are. It's supposed to be fun until people don't want to make it fun and take it way too seriously.
Exactly. Well, let's talk about having fun, and I want to switch gears here a little bit because I've been looking around and going to go to a lot of parks. Started going to some, this summer, this fall, and going to go to a lot next year. So I started looking at season passes. And there was a time when a season pass was a season pass. It was very easy to communicate, by the park. Everyone that worked at the park understood what that pass was. You got in the park. There wasn't anything extra with it. But now it's pretty complex as I'm looking around at different websites, different parks I want to visit. There's a lot of different tiers. There's these different benefits. There's these different add-ons. To me, I would like to see a little clearer communication, a little bit more user-friendly options when you're looking at an app or something on what exactly you're buying on that. So what do you see as the future of season passes in the industry?
what do I see as the future, or what do I wish is the future? Because those are
just kind of both.
Completely different.
What does it need to be? Let's just say that. What does it really need to be at the end of the day?
At its core, I think a season pass needs to get you admission, it needs to get you parking, and it needs to get you some level of discount, be it on food and merch. I think that at its core, that's what a season pass is. Anything else on top of that, you can pay for, be it your photo pass or your all season drink or your all season locker or anything like that. I think a season pass, there should be one type of season pass. You don't need a silver and a gold or a basic and a. I don't even know what Six Flags is doing because they've changed the structure like 8 times in the past 4 years. And then there was memberships, and then there was season passes, and then there's season passes on top of memberships. And for year-round parks, you never know when your season pass is good. Is it based on the calendar year? Is it 365 days from your first use? I think at its core, you need admission, you need parking, you need a nominal discount, which is usually just like sales tax, maybe a little bit more on food and merch. And that's what it needs to be. What is it going to be? It's going to continue to be confusing because the majority of your season pass holders, they don't want the perk that is, or they don't need the perk really that is gets into every park in the chain. Your average Six Flags season pass holder, if you take away the coaster enthusiasts, you have the family in the metro Atlanta area who goes to Six Flags 4 or 5 times a year. That's what they need. They need the discounts. That's what they need. But instead they get, you get a discount on a souvenir cup that's 20%, but you can get a discount on a hot chocolate that's 15%. And if you want a slice of pizza, you get 2 coupons for an extra slice of pizza. And they try to upsell you with marketing jargon, and it's just confusing. And it used to be really bad at Six Flags, I feel like, where you would buy what I think was then known as the Six Flags Gold Pass, which got you the same benefits at every park, parking, admission, discount, which is the same, but it would cost $79 if you bought one at Six Flags Over Georgia. It would cost you $69.99 if you bought 4. But if you did that at Six Flags Great Adventure, the same pass was $94.99, and then if you bought 4, it was $75. It was so confusing as far as numbers. And I think Cedar Fair, I'm curious to see their new season pass structure as it relates to the Platinum Pass. But even then, they've got a Silver Pass, which is admission. They've got Gold Pass, which is admission and parking and the holiday events and the Halloween and fall and winter events. They've got the Prestige Pass, which is, you get fast lanes and you get upgraded parking and you get all these other things. I wish it was simpler, but there will always be that person, which is, why they have focus groups and, sales groups like that, who wants that kind of VIP experience, who wants the extra discount. They want the 2 fast lane passes every time they show up. And that's why they sell them. They wouldn't sell them if they weren't making money on them. So I think there will continue to be as much confusion as possible going forward. And I really wish we could just dumb it back down to okay, this gets you admission for the season, parking, food and beverage discounts. That's what it needs to be. And, and I know even with Cedar Fair, there was not uniformity across the board. I know Schlitterbahn still has the Platinum Pass this year, but all the dry parks that they have you have to buy the Gold Pass with the all-season add-on. And, if you go to Knott's, you have to buy Scary Farm on top of that. And Canada's Wonderland, I think, is the same way, where you have to buy a Haunt Pass or something. I think the consumer needs just cut and dry. Here's what it is. Here's flat fees across the board for anything else on top of admission, parking, and discounts.
Absolutely.
And not Photo Pass at one park is 29 and Photo Pass at another park is 49, and then one park has a Photo Pass that's branded something differently, so it's $35.17 or something just absurd like that. Because I used to do a chart every year for Coaster 101 that was, this is what it's going to cost you to get your season pass at this park. And there was, some similarities. Obviously, the all-season drink plan was like $30 at every park. But if you bought your all-season drink plan at Canada's Wonderland, it was $29.99 Canadian, which with the exchange rate, I mean, people could game the system that way. It's a screwy system. It is. But I think it will continue to be screwy because people will pay for the upgrades and the perceived value of things that they don't necessarily need.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm excited to get back into the season pass world where I have passes to different parks, and looking forward to getting back out there. But yeah, appreciate the insight there. Like I said, I've looked at just about, you name the chain. I looked at their season passes. I looked at what the best value was going to be for me, how often I would be able to get there, and so I can tell you right now, I've got 4 passes, and still 2 or 3 more that I'm considering.
Nice. Yeah, I've been a card carrying one park chain, but that's just because it was the convenient parks for me to get to, and that was it's a Cedar Fair Platinum Pass. So Carowinds used to be 2 hours, and it's now about 30 minutes from me. King's Dominion was 4 hours, now it's about 4.5 hours. So those are the parks that I would visit the most. So that was where I would get it, and I would always have a trip somewhere at some point throughout the year to a Cedar Fair park. I'm also kind of when it comes to Six Flags for a number of reasons. I know some parks are doing really good things right now, and other parks are not doing as many good things. So I have never pulled the trigger on the Six Flags membership or pass, even though you could get it for like $4 and a cup of coffee a month or whatever it was, like 3 or 4 years ago. I've never pulled the trigger, and I'm wondering if I should, but I just haven't yet.
Yeah, well, Ryan and I are located, and we've got, just so many parks within like a 10-hour, driving distance of us. So it's definitely worth having a lot of different, options and places to go. And somebody, I don't mind getting in a car and driving. If it's 8 to 10 hours, I'd almost rather do that than fly.
Road warrior.
With the amount of time. With the amount of time you spend in an airport and everything. So I have no problem, and I've already used. A couple of my passes already this year. So, looking forward to next season.
Yep.
All right, Andrew. So let's pivot this a little bit, and we're going to play a little game. We're going to play this or that, but this is going to be a theme park edition. So we're going to ask you between 2 different things, and maybe a little bit of a justification for a couple different things. So the very first one that we have on the list is, Andrew, would you rather spend a day at a park riding every roller coaster, or spend a day exploring every themed area and enjoying the shows and food? I'm gonna add a caveat saying that the themes, the shows, and the food are not terrible, by the way. So it's not just a simple answer.
Hey, can I have another caveat, or
yeah, why not?
Sure. There are no rules here.
Have I been to this park before?
No.
Probably riding every roller coaster that day then. Depending on, some parks you could get through, have 4 or 5 roller coasters, you're done in 2 hours, you can explore the rest of the park. But if it's it's a place that I've never been, I'm gonna ride the coaster.
Got to get the creds, right?
There you go. All
just
right.
Don't brag about them.
Andrew, would you rather be the first person to ride a brand new record-breaking roller coaster, or would you rather have unlimited front-of-the-line passes for your favorite ride?
Unlimited front-of-the-line passes for my favorite ride. There's a lot of wanting in the coaster community to be first, winning
the bragging
rights, and I'm not necessarily about that. I'm just trying to think of what, if I could have a front of the line pass to any ride, what it would be. Yeah, I would go with that, because I'm thinking of rides that are some of my favorites, and there's a couple of dark rides on that list. But if I could do something like front of the line for Velocicoaster or Fury and never have to wait, That no brainer.
Yeah, I would
That's what
take
I'm
that as
taking.
well. All right. Would you rather visit a park on a scorching hot day and only ride the water rides, or would you rather visit a park on a cold day and only do things like drink hot chocolate and enjoy indoor attractions?
See, that's tough because I don't like water
Well, it
rides,
sounds like
but
it's
I'm
easy
also
then.
but I also don't like hot chocolate. So like if I could visit a park on like a colder day, I would just be, and I've done this before, just be comfortable just like walking around, and again the occasional indoor attraction or something that's open during cold. I mean, I love going to Carowinds and King's Dominion during
Mhm.
Winterfest. I think the parks are really special that time of year. So yeah, water rides not my cup of tea, and I also don't really like being hot. So we're gonna go with cold.
You answered correctly.
All right.
Good.
Andrew, would you rather eat only theme park snacks, like churros, cotton candy, ice cream for the day, or would you rather have just that one gourmet meal at a theme park restaurant?
Ooh, also tough. And it, man, I feel like I'm coming with caveats to every question, which is problematic. But if we're talking like snacks here, so say you go to somewhere like Le Frites at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg, which is like loaded fries, or excavator taters at King's Dominion, same thing. Is that considered a snack, or am I?
That's a snack. That's a snack.
Then yeah, we'll go with snack because you can do a mix of savory and sweet, and you can probably get some Dippin' Dots out of the deal.
Cool. All right, next one. Would you rather visit a theme park in the middle of the night and be the only person there and being able to walk on any attraction you want, or visit during a busy day and get to ride the attractions, but you also get to people watch?
All right, I would pick the night option because again, you're not waiting in line. You get to ride, you sit wherever you want. I will say, having walked around an amusement park that's closed, and kind of doing the behind the scenes things, and they're the animatronic dinosaurs or dinosaurs alive. They don't shut off. So like you're walking in the park by yourself, and you hear this like piercing dinosaur shriek. It's a little unnerving, but if I knew what I was getting into, I'd absolutely pick night.
Mm.
What about you guys?
All right. For me, I am someone that part of my visit is the atmosphere. And I think, the guests being in the park, that's all part of it. I like hearing the screams and just seeing everybody having a great time. So for me, I would rather go on that busy day, when the park's, hopping, than just walk around the park at night and have it all to myself.
As I've aged, I've hated crowds
Ryan?
more and more. So, night.
All right. All right. Andrew, would you rather be a character performer in a show or a ride operator for the day?
Ride operator. That one. Now I feel like it's pretty easy because I lack the theatrical talents to be a show performer.
I'd be a show performer because they probably make more.
I mean, if we're gonna throw salary into it, I'll be Ariel on the Phantasmic because she gets hazard pay because they'd throw the burlap sack over during the
Yeah, I was
fireworks.
telling we saw Phantasmic a couple weeks ago. I was telling my girlfriend about how she gets a hazard pay and her performance pay because all those pinwheels are going off and she's just covered in wet burlap to protect her while everybody else is in the bomb shelter.
Yes.
All right. So next question. Would you rather have the ability to skip all the lines at a theme park but never take photos, or have professional photos captured every sorry. Would you rather have the ability to skip all the lines at a theme park but never take photos, or have a professional photographer capture every moment but wait in all the lines?
See, I need some middle ground on this one because I love taking photos. I feel like the only person on earth. I still carry around my digital camera that's like fits in my pocket. So I would wait in line, but I would be the one wanting to take the photos. And it's not about necessarily capturing my moments. I just like sitting there and finding like the cool angles to take coaster photography from. So I know that's a non-answer to your question, but there's
Not really. I mean, it's, there's photos too. It's part of the memory book. When you
Right.
put those together, you look at it online, whatever, and, it rekindles your day at the park. If you don't have any of that,
Exactly.
you're just, yeah. So, yeah, I would do what you're doing.
Yeah, I've got to be the one taking them though. And I will do that normally. I'll just walk around the park and I've been known to stand in the same spot for 25 minutes while a train cycles 3 or 4 times just so I can get that one shot that may or may not look good in a calendar or on a canvas print or something. I'm staring at a couple of pictures I've taken on my wall now. But yeah, I have to be the one taking the pictures.
All right. Final question for you. Andrew, would you rather have all day dining or would you rather have all season fast lane?
That's park dependent. And if we're gonna go with, let's say it's my home park, let's say it's Carowinds, I'd rather have all day dining because I think I've been there enough where the all season fast lane is not a huge draw for me. Like I can get every once in a while I get a one off or a coupon or something like that. But usually when I go to the park, I go on a Sunday or a slow day or a cloudy day when I'm not going to wait in line because I'm a lot like Ryan. I don't do well with crowds. So I'll go all day dining, but it's also park and chain dependent. I would do all season fast lane at a Six Flags park because you couldn't pay me to eat chopsticks all day or whatever it is they're calling their Panda Express knockoff now.
Interesting. All right. Well, that was fun, I guess. Hey, so we're going to transition to the next section, and this is where I don't know if you've seen this. We started doing it recently, but we take questions from Twitter/X, and we answer them, and we'll let you hang around and get your take on this.
For sure.
So this week's question, tweeting at attractions_GRP, is from at Mark Desjardins. Okay. And they asked, will Cedar Point and Kings Island both get Zamperla multi-launch coasters before 2030? Well, I mean, we're halfway there.
Right.
Does Top Thrill 2 count if it's a swing launch?
It's still a multi-launch.
I think so too, but I'm wondering if they mean like
after this point, I would think.
Like
somewhere over the next 6 years. What are we looking at?
I think so. I think, and it's maybe because I like the guy, but I think Zamperla is definitely on the upswing when it comes to new roller coasters, and I'm interested to see what the first Lightning coaster up at P&E is going to do. I'm excited to see what Top Thrill 2 is going to do, and if they have the technology and they can build it to me with I think it's the zero weld train and the all aluminum chassis and all the other selling points that make this thing like a maintenance darling for parks. And if there's a lot of uptime, there's more people riding, more people coming to the park, and less maintenance costs. I think given the state of roller coasters in the industry right now, I think there could absolutely be one. I don't know to what scale. It won't be a 420-foot spike on, spike in a top hat. But I think, I tell you what I would love to see would be Kings Island to get one of those, the double heart model that they've got that's kind of like their version of the Premier Skyrocket 2. I think that double heart could, at the right part, could do really well.
I agree. I guess I'll put in my 2 cents while I'm thinking about it, but I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head. It's going to depend on how Top Thrill 2 goes. If Top Thrill 2 has a lot of uptime, the trains are proven, their launch system is proven, then yeah, the sky's the limit for Zamperla. If this is a flop, or it doesn't work, or it's not accommodating, or people think it's uncomfortable, then maybe the last we've seen of Zamperla as far as major coasters are concerned. But I mean, they know what they're doing, and I have full faith. Don, do you have any thoughts?
Well, the question was, would
Yeah.
both Cedar Point and Kings Island by 2030? And I don't think the window's long enough, for both to get something like that within a 5-year period, real close to each other like that. But I like the idea of it, absolutely with that. But I my guess would be no,
By 2030, yeah, I agree.
just because
Definitely.
of how close. Yeah, 2030 is just around the corner.
Yeah, I guess I didn't even realize what year it was. That's a problem.
Yeah. I mean, my thought with that is that it's yeah, is it possible? I think that we all laid out why it is and why it may not be, depending on how things go, and we'll probably have a good idea as to, what the future of Zamperla looks like by the end of next season. 2030, as Don mentioned, that's pretty darn soon, and if so, assuming that Top Thrill is the multi-launch coaster that you're looking for for Cedar Point, I mean, Kings Island would have to be pretty close to breaking ground at this point. I mean, it's 2023, at the end of 2023, so it would be somewhere in the at least early planning stages at this point. So who knows? Cool. Awesome. Great answer, guys. But thank you. If you have any questions, we have a pinned tweet at the top of our X at attractions_GRP. So feel free to send us your theme park questions.
All right, Andrew, we'd like you to stick around for the next segment, which we like to call
The
Ryan?
Pick Six. All right.
Yes.
All right, I'll start off here. I do. The new Wild Adventures Christmas Wild and Bright event will debut November 18th at Wild Adventures Theme Park in Valdosta, Georgia. Been there. It's worth checking out. The holiday event will run on select nights through December 31st and feature a gingerbread village, Rudolph's Holly Jolly Junction, Carol of the Animals, a lake show, and more than 2 million lights. Andrew, you a fan of holiday events like this?
I am. I've never been to Wild Adventures, and I know I think they're under the Hershey banner, like Dollywood and Silver Dollar City, right? Okay, so they're maybe given its location, there could be a little bit more of a religious component to this, which I'm not against. But I think I think Christmas events and holiday events at parks are great, especially in those kind of warmer climate parks where you're not going to deal with a snowstorm most of the time. And again, the lights, there's usually some festive holiday food at these things. It's just a different energy in the park, and I think Wild Adventure is smart for kind of capitalizing on the trend here.
Absolutely. All right, number 2. A couple has reached a major milestone at an amusement park in Northwest Iowa. Tom and Margaret Wugazer, let's pronounce it that way because I'm not entirely certain. Both retired, recently celebrated riding the Legend roller coaster, not to be confused with the Legend at Holiday World. This is at Arnold's Park, 1,000 times this season. So that's true love, if you ask me. So Andrew, you're getting married soon. Like, are you and your wife gonna try something like this?
She is. She's not a roller coaster person. I took her to Carowinds, one of our very first dates, because I wanted to show her the Cirque show, and I asked, was in the courtship talking stage or whatever we call it these days. I was like, "Would you ride a roller coaster with me?" Not really thinking anything of it, and she's like, "Yeah." And I think she was doing that because she wanted to impress me a little bit. I don't know. Maybe that's what my ego is telling me. So I took her on Copperhead Strike at Carowinds, which to me was like, it's not super tall, it's not super fast. We shouldn't have any issues here. And then I neglected to think about the JoJo roll coming out of the station, the launch into the loop with all that hang time, and then the hang time on the upside down top hat. She was not a fan, and she got off that thing and was like, "Nope, never again." And that was the last roller coaster we rode, and that was about 4 years ago. So I have no plans to have a marathon, a coaster riding marathon in the quadruple digits with my soon-to-be wife anytime soon.
Well, her coaster counts at least 1. We know that.
It might be like a couple more than that from when she was a kid, but yeah, it ain't it. That's not it.
Yeah, that would never happen with me. I can tell you when I first started dating my wife, and she found out I was the person that, she'd heard about it in the news growing up, where she was, Brookville, Ohio, that, somebody had ridden the racer thousands of times. And when she found out I was that person, she said, that's dumb. So that was never going to happen with her, wanting to do that many times. She enjoys it, once or twice, like most people.
Mhm.
But she saw no logic in what I did, riding it thousands of times.
Don, what was the most times you rode the racer in one season?
In one season, 2,211 times.
There you go.
So that was 1982. So 2,200 times in 1982.
So you add this couple in Iowa's numbers together, they still can't even touch you. So
no, and those were non-consecutive rides because they didn't have fast. You couldn't stay on it. You could be the only one in the station back in those days, and you still had to get out and go back to the line again because that was the rules that the park had in place. And no fast lane, so I couldn't cheat the system or anything like that. So it was 2,200 rides, getting off the ride, getting right back in line, and doing it all over again. All right, moving on. The Columbus Zoo and Aquarium has released details for its annual Boo at the Zoo Halloween events for 2023. They'll run Friday, Saturdays, and Sundays starting October 6th. The Friday nights are 5 to 8, Saturdays 10 to 8, and the Sundays are 10 to 5. Guests are encouraged to wear costumes for Boo at the Zoo. You think of theme parks all the time for Halloween events. You don't really think of zoos having them. But this is a really fun event, great for families.
Yeah, the Columbus Zoo basically has like a theme. Don't they have like roller coasters and water park and so? I've never been there, but I've always heard.
It's nice. Definitely check it out.
You ever been there, Andrew?
Ryan.
Yeah, I went actually. Where was I? I was coming home from a coaster stock at Kings Island a couple years ago. I flew out of Columbus, and I tried to grab the two coaster credits there. I was able to get on Tidal Twist. I think the Tidal Twist, right? That's their Zamperla spinning coaster. But the wooden coaster there, whose name is escaping me, it had rained that morning, and it's got the old brakes, and so I was unable to get on that. But I know Nick from our team on Coaster 101, he just went to the Zambezi Bay, which is their water park is Zambezi Bay at the Columbus Zoo. And he went to the Zambezi Bay, and I think they've got, a couple of mazes. It's like a food festival. Based on what he's said and what he kind of posted on social media, I mean, it's pretty solid haunt for a zoo. And I know it's been a while at this point, but we did have, I think, the general manager of Columbus Zoo on the Coaster 101 podcast kind of talking about the origins of the event and kind of how it's grown from the beginnings to kind of where it is now. So if you want to, after you're done listening to this and the other 60 plus episodes of the Attraction Group podcast, listen to those first. You can go back into our archives and find that episode with, I don't even remember his name. That's terrible of me. But yeah, it's about Zambezi Bay.
Well, you'd have to listen to the other 60 episodes of the Attractions Group podcast and then all the episodes of Tower Topics. And then you can listen to the Coaster 101 podcast.
That works too.
Okay.
That works too.
So, next up. So Universal files a patent for facial recognition technology. So what they're saying is that this is going to be used for the admissions process. They're already gearing up to use it for the new Epic Universe, which opens in 2025, and they're planning on expanding it to the other parks. Currently, and I went to Universal about a week ago, what they do is they scan your annual pass or your ticket or whatever, and then they scan your fingerprint, and that's the double verification. But part of the problem is that when you first use your ticket, you have to show an ID just to make sure that it matches up with you, and then after you use it and it's tied to your fingerprint, it goes back. But facial recognition might speed things up. Andrew, do you think this will just speed things up, or do you think we're going into creepy territory at this point?
I don't think it's creepy. I mean, if you're worried about Big Brother watching you at a theme park, they've been doing it for years and you just don't realize it. So maybe it's a step. And I know there was a lawsuit against Six Flags or somebody a couple years ago for using the biometric thumbprints. I think it was like Six Flags Great America or somebody got sued for that. And it's like, what do you want? I think it will speed up. I think it will kind of eliminate the guessing game of getting up to the ticket booth and you're like, oh, did I use my right index finger? Or did I use my left thumb? Like, I had that issue. I think during my most recent trip to Universal, my brother forgot what finger he used the second day we went to the park. So we had to. It took him a second, and he's like, oh yeah, I used that one. But yeah, it's. I think there's a lot of conjecture I've seen on social media this week about that, and it's like these parks know where you are, and they have heat maps, and they have guest tracking, and it. We'll go to Disney. They have a RFID chip in your on your wrist and have for years, and they know your name. They know what you're spending. They know where you are. I don't think it's creepy territory. I think it's you just know who's in your park. And maybe I'm naive in thinking that, but I don't think it's as nefarious as the internet makes it out to
Well,
be.
you're also assuming that Disney doesn't have facial recognition because I've heard rumors that they do. So basically, with Disney, essentially, you scan your Magic Band and then you scan your fingerprint. And I do not know this for sure, but I've heard this as a rumor is they also use facial technology, which records you the first time you use it. And if you were able to like mock up the fingerprint or something, which the Magic Band be easy, you can steal someone's Magic Band. But if you mocked up the fingerprint and you got in, you wouldn't get very far before security would have cost you. They're specifically looking for that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's been happening very quietly for years, and I don't think it's as big a deal as anybody's making it out to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Don, what's next?
Next, we have Wonder Woman Golden Lasso Coaster at Six Flags Fiesta, Texas. It reopens on Friday. The ride has been temporarily closed going back to July as part of a multi-phase refurbishment of the 5-year-old coaster built by Rocky Mountain Construction, otherwise known as RMC. These single rail attractions, coasters, they've been very popular, but they all seem to have some kind of issues due to those prototype trains.
Yeah, I'm not entirely certain what they're doing. They're doing. Didn't they get whole new trains? Did you read that, Don?
I'm not sure if that's what's going on here. I just know that there's a lot of different things that they're trying to update.
I know they replaced the
it.
restraints after about a week. There's something more comfortable.
Yeah.
Andrew, what do you know about this?
Yeah, so it's 5-year-old coaster.
Yeah,
so
I think with a prototypical anything, and it goes back to our discussion about Lightning Rod at the middle of the show. I think RMC is constantly innovating, and whatever they were doing 5 years ago, there have been technological improvements in that time frame. And this was a first of its kind coaster. It's been about 5 years. They've found a way to improve it, so they're going to do it. And I know, Fiesta Texas, especially in recent years, they rethemed Poltergeist, their premier, I think it's premier, their spaghetti bowl coaster. They've gotten new trains for their Boomerang. They've gotten additional trains for Iron Rattler. There's a lot of like guest improvements that have been going on at Six Flags Fiesta Texas, in which, when I said earlier that, some of the Six Flags parks are doing the right things, I think at Fiesta Texas specifically, the right things are happening because they are a park that is, I'm pretty sure, a 12-month of the year operation. I don't think they're full 365 yet, but they are 12 months. And if they can do things that, improve their maintenance and improve their uptimes and improve the overall guest satisfaction, and even if that's shutting down a ride for, 3 or 4 months while it either gets new trains or, portions of the ride get retracked, those high stress areas, I think it's only going to benefit the guest and the fans going forward. And that's a part I think that really does care a ton about their fans and their throughput and their satisfaction. And not every park can say that.
It's in good hands with Mr. Jeffrey Siebert, friend of the show.
100%.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, good insight. So last one, as mentioned in a story recently, in a recently launched blog, Theme Parks by Dawn. Oh, that's you.
That's me.
Okay, I knew that. Okay. Theme Parks by Don. Cedar Fair is about to embark on a thrilling new adventure. On October 6, 2023, the company is set to open Cedar Point Esports, an exciting expansion into the virtual world of esports and gaming. This grand opening marks a significant turning point for Cedar Point as it ventures into the realm of competitive gaming and entertainment. Esports are and will continue to be huge. I think there's no doubt about that. What I
Yeah.
thought was kind of not I don't know if it's ironic or coincidental because I don't know the difference, but they sold the sports complex, but they opened an esports complex all within like 3 months because like the Cal Ripken company owns the sports complex now.
Yeah, well, two totally different type of audiences that you're attracting for those things. So, there's definitely a market for this. The demand is there. Um, I personally, I'm not into the gaming things, but I know a lot of people that are, and a number of people reach out to me to say how excited they were when they saw this news, happening, and it's another reason, to maybe go up to Sandusky, to make we already look at it as a destination place, so it's one more thing to do.
Yeah, it's going to be huge, regardless of how you and I or even Andrew feels about it. It's going to sell tickets. Andrew, what are your thoughts? Are you a gamer at all?
I play. I've got my Xbox. I play, Madden and FIFA and NHL. I'm a big sports
Mm-hmm.
gamer. Like that's kind of what I do. So I'm not your esports. I'm not playing Counter Strike or Fortnite or any of those competitive things. But I do know that esports is definitely on the upswing of popularity. And I don't think Cedar Fair would be investing in it if it wasn't, especially after selling the sports complex. But if we could go back to Six Flags Fiesta Texas, this season they opened the E6 Gaming Lounge. I think that's what it's called. Um, Same type of thing, esports. There's like a lounge in there, food and beverage options, and they have it in its position in such a way that the residents of San Antonio, a lot of them, don't have access to these super gaming computers with the 4K, 8K graphics and the crazy setups and rigs like that. So I don't know the demographic data of the Sandusky area, but I think it's a similar thing. And granted, this one is not in the park, but I think it's not in the park right
No,
now.
it's down the road.
Yeah. So I think it's another draw to get people to Sandusky, and I know there is a business in esports tournaments. The company I work for we kind of have worked with a local school to do some lighting and things and kind of provide some production value to their esports tournament. So I know there is some business associated with that. Again, if there wasn't a way to make money at it, there wouldn't be people investing in it and continuing to build these like esports specific complexes. So I think it's going to be a win by Cedar Fair. And I think, yeah, it's going to draw people. It's going to give people another reason to maybe extend their stay or, take a half day off Cedar Point or Cedar Point Shores. And it appeals to another subset of audience that Cedar Point wasn't previously reaching.
Absolutely. Awesome. Fantastic insight. Andrew, thank you so much for being on the show again. Just for the audio listeners, can you plug your website as well as where they could find you on social?
Yeah, absolutely. It's coaster101.com. And if you're listening to this podcast and can't spell coaster, we've got other issues, but it's COASTER 101.com. We're also on all of the social medias, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter /X, TikTok, YouTube. We're at Coaster 101, so you can find us there as well. We do have the Coaster 101 podcast, which will, after I get married, presumably come back from hiatus because the unpaid projects that I work on sometimes have to take a backseat to real life every once in a while. So, but we do have a 130-ish episode back catalog, some really good interviews and reviews and We've done theme park drafts. We've got a little bit of everything there. So again, after you've gone through the back catalog of the attractions group podcast and Tower Topics, and read every article on theme parks by Don, and followed Ryan's social media, followed Don's social media, come on over to coaster101.com. We're pretty proud of the work we do.
Well, we wouldn't have you on the show if we didn't really like what you do. So yeah, coaster101.com. All the socials are at coaster101. But thank you once again, Andrew, for being on the show. It's always a pleasure to have you on. Don, do you have any final thoughts before we wrap it up for the week?
No, just again, thanks, Andrew, and appreciate your insight that you provided.
Absolutely. And Don, we gotta talk offline about Joe Mixon and fantasy football.
We do.
But that's another conversation for another day.
Awesome. Well, so make sure that you follow us on your favorite podcast apps: Apple, Google, Spotify, etc. Twitter @attractions_GRP, and on YouTube by searching for the Attractions Group Podcast. After you've done with doing all of that, you can visit themeparksbydon.com to read more insights from the man, Don Helbig himself, about different aspects of the theme park business. It's just getting off the ground, so he's got some good work already. But if you want to be in it from the ground up, then now's the time to hop on. And then after you're done reading all of that, you can go to coaster101.com and read just fantastic articles and videos and podcasts and everything. So, Don, thanks for co-hosting with me again this week. Andrew, thank you for being on the show. We really appreciate it, guys. We'll see everybody next week.